I thought my husband's late nights were for our future until I found a hidden phone that exposed his double life. My name is Sarah, and I spent 10 years building a life I thought was perfect. We lived in a cozy house in suburban Georgia, me, my husband David, and our 2 kids, Emma and Noah, ages 7 and 5. David was a software engineer, always working late, saying it was for our family, for the promotions that'd give us a better life. I believed him, juggling my part-time job at a bakery and raising the kids, dreaming of the day we'd take that big family trip to Disney World. We were high school sweethearts, married at 22, the kind of couple everyone envied. But last fall, everything I thought I knew about him shattered, leaving me to pick up the pieces of our family and myself. It started with a gut feeling. David's late nights had become more frequent, his excuses more vague. Client meetings, he'd say, or deadline crunch. I'd nod, kissing him goodbye, but something felt off. He'd come home smelling of cologne I didn't recognize, his phone always on silent. One night, while he was in the shower, I noticed his jacket on the couch, a bulge in the pocket. I don't know why I checked, call it intuition, but I found a second phone, a cheap burner, tucked inside. My heart raced as I powered it on. The screen lit up with texts from Kay. Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you. Don't tell her. Her. Me. My hands shook as I scrolled, each message a dagger. I didn't confront him right away. I needed more, something undeniable. I memorized the number, turned the phone off, and put it back. That night, I barely slept, replaying our life, our first date at the county fair, the way he'd proposed under the stars, the kids' births. Was it all a lie? The next day, I called the number from a friend's phone, pretending to be a wrong number. A woman answered, her voice soft, laughing. Hello. I hung up, my stomach churning. I dug deeper, checking his laptop while he was at work. In a hidden folder, I found photos, David with a woman, brunette, maybe 30, at a beach, a bar, a hotel. My world tilted. Her name was Kayla, according to an email receipt for a dinner reservation. I tracked her down online. Kayla Bennett, a marketing consultant, lived an hour away in Atlanta. Her social media was public, filled with posts, some from places David had been working late. A photo from 2 weeks ago showed her at a rooftop bar, captioned, "Best date ever." David had told me he was at a conference that night. The betrayal hit like a tidal wave. I printed the photo, my hands trembling, and waited for him to come home. Emma and Noah were at a sleepover, thank God, because I couldn't hold it in anymore. When he walked in, I held up the photo. "Who's Kayla?" I asked, my voice shaking. He froze, his face paling. "It's not what you think," he stammered, but I threw the burner phone at his feet. "Then explain this." The texts, the photos, the lies, they poured out of me. He crumbled, admitting he'd been seeing her for a year. A year! While I packed lunches and planned our anniversary, he was building another life. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he said, tears in his eyes. I didn't care. I told him to leave, my voice cold, and he did, grabbing a bag and walking out. The house felt hollow, the kids' toys scattered like a cruel reminder of what I'd lost. I called my best friend, Mia, who came over with wine and tissues. She stayed the night, listening as I cried, raged, planned. The kids came home the next morning, asking where Daddy was. I lied, saying he was on a work trip, but Emma's eyes narrowed. She knew something was wrong. I couldn't keep it together, breaking down in the bathroom, their laughter outside, a painful contrast. Mia suggested a lawyer, and I met one the next day, a woman named Rachel who specialized in family law. She was kind but direct. Georgia's a no-fault state, but we could fight for custody, the house, support. I nodded, numb, as she outlined steps. The weeks that followed were a fog. David texted, begging to talk, but I blocked him. I told my parents, their disappointment a mirror of mine. My mom offered to move in, helping with the kids while I worked. I threw myself into routine, baking, school drop-offs, bedtime stories, anything to keep the kids stable. But Noah started wetting the bed, Emma stopped talking as much, and I blamed myself. I found a therapist, Dr. Carter, who helped us start family sessions. "You're enough," she told me, and I clung to that even when I didn't believe it. I kept digging into David's life, needing to understand. I found bank statements, withdrawals for hotels, gifts, trips I knew nothing about. He'd spent thousands on Kayla while I budgeted for the kids' school supplies. The betrayal deepened, but so did my resolve. I started a journal, writing letters to David I'd never send, pouring out my anger, my hurt. One night, I shared a page with Mia, who urged me to post online. I did, anonymously, on a parenting forum. The response was overwhelming: other women, other stories, a community of pain and strength. It gave me a spark, a purpose. Kayla reached out, a message on social media. I didn't know he was married, she claimed. I didn't believe her, but I met her anyway, at a coffee shop, needing closure. She looked smaller in person, nervous. "He said you were separated," she told me, showing texts where he'd lied about me. I left, not forgiving her, but feeling lighter. David had played us both, but I wouldn't let him define me. I filed for divorce, Rachel by my side, and served him papers at his new apartment. He cried, begged, but I walked away, my kids' faces in my mind. I was done. The divorce papers were served, and I thought that'd be the end of David's grip on our lives, but I was wrong. The cozy house in suburban Georgia, where Emma, Noah, and I were trying to rebuild, became a battleground. David didn't disappear quietly. He fought for everything: the kids, the house, even the savings I'd scrimped for their future. I was already stretched thin, balancing my bakery job, therapy for the kids, and the weight of betrayal. But his actions forced me to dig deeper, to find a strength I didn't know I had, for my children and for myself. David's response to the divorce filing was a shock. He hired a lawyer, a slick guy named Mark, who pushed for joint custody and half the house's value. Rachel, my lawyer, warned me it'd get messy. Georgia courts prioritize fairness, not feelings. David claimed he was a changed man, attending therapy, ending things with Kayla. I didn't buy it, but his texts to me were relentless. "I miss the kids. Let's work this out." I blocked him again, but he started showing up at the bakery, waiting in the parking lot. "Sarah, please," he'd say, his eyes pleading. I'd walk away, heart pounding, my hands sticky with frosting. Emma and Noah felt the tension. Emma, at 7, started drawing dark pictures: storms, broken houses. Noah's bedwetting got worse, and he'd cling to me, asking, "Is Daddy mad at me?" I'd hug him tight, saying, "No, sweetie, this isn't your fault," but the guilt ate at me. Dr. Carter, our therapist, suggested art therapy for them, and I enrolled them in a local program. Emma's drawings slowly brightened: sunflowers, a family of 3. Noah painted a blue dog, giggling as he named it Bouncy. It was progress, but I knew they needed more stability. I couldn't give them their old life back, but I could fight for a new one. The legal battle drained me. David's lawyer argued I was unstable, pointing to my late nights at the bakery as proof I couldn't care for the kids. It was a lie, but it stung. Rachel countered with evidence: his burner phone, the photos with Kayla, bank statements showing his spending on her. I testified, my voice steady, about the nights I'd waited for him, the lies he'd told. The judge listened, her face unreadable. Mediation was worse. David sat across from me, promising to change, but I saw through him. "You had a year to change," I said, walking out. Rachel pushed for full custody, citing his infidelity and emotional impact on the kids. We waited, the uncertainty a heavy fog. I kept writing on the parenting forum, my posts gaining traction. Women messaged me, sharing their stories: cheating husbands, broken families, resilience. One wrote, "You're giving me hope." It fueled me, and I started a blog, baking through the break, blending recipes with my journey. I shared a post about making Emma's favorite lemon cookies while crying over the divorce papers. It went viral, thousands of comments pouring in. I baked more, the kitchen a sanctuary, the kids helping with dough, their laughter a balm. The blog brought in small ad revenue, enough to cover therapy costs, and I felt a flicker of independence. David's persistence didn't stop. He showed up at the kids' school against our temporary custody agreement, claiming he just wanted to see them. Emma ran to me scared, while Noah hid behind her. I called Rachel, who filed for a restraining order. The court granted it, but David violated it a week later, leaving a letter on my doorstep. "I'll always love you." I turned it over to the police, my hands shaking. They warned him, but I installed cameras, checked locks obsessively. I wouldn't let him near us, not after what he'd done. My parents were my rock. Mom moved in, cooking dinners, reading to the kids. Dad fixed the porch swing, a project I'd begged David to do for years. Their support let me breathe, but I still felt like I was failing. One night, Emma asked, "Are we poor now?" I froze. She'd overheard me budgeting on the phone. "No, honey," I lied, but the truth was we were struggling. David had frozen our joint account, claiming it was his money. Rachel fought to unfreeze it, but it took weeks. I started selling baked goods online, lemon cookies, brownies, anything. The community rallied, orders pouring in from my blog readers. It wasn't much, but it kept us afloat. A breakthrough came in court. The judge ruled in my favor, full custody, with David getting supervised visits. The house was mine, but I had to pay him a small equity share, dipping into savings. It hurt, but I'd won the kids, our home, our future. David's face fell as the gavel struck, and I felt a weight lift. I hugged Rachel, tears in my eyes, and called Mom, who sobbed with relief. That night, I baked a celebration cake, chocolate, Noah's favorite, and we danced in the kitchen, the kids' laughter echoing. It wasn't over, but it was a start. I kept vlogging, my following growing. A local news outlet picked up my story, interviewing me about baking through the break. I shared how baking saved me, how the kids were healing. The segment aired, and orders skyrocketed. I had to hire Mia to help pack boxes. I enrolled in a small business course, dreaming of a bakery of my own. Emma started a cookie club at school. Noah's bedwetting stopped, and I felt like a mom again, not just a survivor. David's visits were tense, supervised at a center, but the kids adjusted, focusing on us, their new normal. One evening, we sat on the porch swing, fireflies flickering. Emma leaned against me, Noah on my lap. "I like our family," Emma said. I smiled, tears welling. We were enough. The road ahead was long, David's shadow lingered. Money was tight, but I had my kids, my voice, my fight. I was baking a new life, one recipe at a time. YouTube, my name is Sarah. 10,000 to 11,000. 7,500 to 8,500. 9 o'clock, EST, 23/2025. Winning full custody and the house felt like a victory, but it was just the beginning of a new chapter for me, Emma, and Noah. The cozy house in suburban Georgia became our safe haven, a place where we could finally breathe, grow, and dream again. David's shadow lingered, but I was determined to build a life that didn't revolve around his betrayal. With my blog baking through the break gaining traction and the kids finding their footing, I started to see a future, one I could shape on my terms as a mother, a baker, and a woman reclaiming her voice. The supervised visits with David were a challenge. They happened once a month at a family center, a sterile room with toys, and a social worker watching. Emma would come back quiet, Noah clingy, and I'd spend the evening reassuring them. "Daddy's trying," I'd say, though I didn't believe it. David kept up appearances, bringing small gifts, a doll for Emma, a car for Noah, but I saw the strain in his eyes. He'd violated the restraining order twice, sending letters through a friend, begging for one more chance. I turned them over to Rachel, who got the visits reduced to bi-monthly. It was a relief, but I stayed vigilant, cameras on, doors locked, my kids' safety my priority. My blog exploded after the news segment. Baking through the break wasn't just a journal anymore, it was a movement. I posted recipes tied to our journey: blueberry muffins for the day we won custody, cinnamon rolls for Noah's first dry night. Readers loved the honesty, and my following hit 50,000. I started a YouTube channel, filming baking tutorials with the kids helping, their giggles lighting up the screen. Emma narrated a video, Mommy's Lemon Cookies, and it got 100,000 views in a week. The ad revenue helped, but the real win was the community, women emailing me, saying I'd inspired them to leave toxic relationships to bake through their pain. The baking business took off too. I rented a small commercial kitchen with my savings, turning online orders into a real operation. Mia quit her job to join me, handling deliveries while I baked. We called it Break and Bake, a nod to my blog, and sold out every batch: cookies, cakes, bread. I hired a local teen, Jake, to help with packaging, and we expanded to farmers markets. At one market, a woman bought a dozen brownies, tears in her eyes. "I read your blog," she said. "You saved me." I hugged her, my heart full. This was bigger than me. It was a lifeline for others. Emma and Noah thrived in their new normal. Emma's cookie club at school turned into a baking class, with me teaching 10 kids every Saturday. Noah joined, decorating cookies with messy icing, his laughter infectious. Their art therapy continued, their drawings now full of color, families, dogs, sunshine. Dr. Carter praised their progress, saying, "They feel safe with you." I cried hearing that, knowing I'd fought for that safety. We started a tradition, Friday pizza nights, just us three, building forts in the living room. Emma said, "This is better than before," and I knew she meant before David's lies. It healed something in me. David's influence faded. His visits grew sporadic. He missed 2 in a row, citing work. The kids barely noticed, too busy with school plays and baking. I heard through a mutual friend he'd moved to Atlanta, maybe with Kayla again. I didn't care. My focus was on us. I finished the small business course, learning marketing, budgeting, dreaming bigger. A local cafe offered to stock break and bake goods, and I signed the deal, my hands shaking with pride. We celebrated with a cake, strawberry, Emma's favorite, the kids smearing frosting on my face, laughter filling the house. The blog led to a book deal. A publisher found me online, offering to turn my posts into a memoir, Baking Through the Break, a recipe for resilience. I wrote late at night, after the kids slept, pouring out our story, the betrayal, the fight, the healing. It was raw, real, and when I submitted the draft, my editor cried. "This will help so many," she said. The book launched at a local bookstore, a small event with my readers, the kids handing out cookies. I signed copies, my heart swelling as women shared their stories. One said, "I left my husband because of you." I'd never felt so seen. Financially, we stabilized. The business grew, and I saved enough for that Disney World trip we dreamed of. We went last spring, the kids screaming on rides, Mickey ears on their heads. I watched them, tears in my eyes, knowing I'd kept my promise. Back home, I opened a tiny storefront for Break and Bake, a pastel-painted space with a counter and a play area for kids. Emma cut the ribbon, Noah cheering. It wasn't just a bakery, it was our victory, a place where others could find comfort in a cookie, a story, a smile. One night, we sat in our fort, pizza boxes empty, fairy lights glowing. Emma drew a picture, a family of 3, smiling, a bakery in the background. Noah added a blue dog, Bouncy. I hung it on the fridge, next to a photo of us at Disney. David was a memory, a lesson, but not our story. We'd baked our way through the break, rising stronger, together. I looked at my kids, my little bakers, and knew we were whole.